Hello Echrak.
Hello Daniel.
Hello everyone and welcome to our podcast about the very interesting topic of diversity. And I'm really pleased that you joined this podcast this evening, and I think it would be nice if you introduce yourself a bit.
Thank you. Thanks a lot for inviting me. I really appreciate it. And we're going to talk about the topic that is very close to my heart. This is diversity and inclusion. Maybe a bit kind of background about myself. So my name is Echrak. I come from Tunisia, so North Africa, and I have been kind of involved in many diversity, inclusion, and equity initiatives in my country. I think it has been passed to me from my grandma to my mother, and to me it's really a topic that we even daily talk about in the house. And in Tunisia there are so many let's say fields or things that needs to be improved, and we have this culture. I think I come from a small village where everyone tries to participate with what they can do in order to make to create better opportunities for the future kind of generations. And I took that with me here to Switzerland. So I'm a member at the United Nations, and I work on initiatives for providing equal opportunities to African women to create businesses and to be more independent. I am an associate as well at the FEMVIS association in Visp. I was much more involved before having my child, but I still attend some of their events. Yeah.
And just for me to understand, what are your activities at the United Nations or this?
Yeah, so mainly about setting up projects, really doing so for example, the last project we did was for Cameroonian women who had ideas to start their own business, to be more financially independent, also to take their own decisions. And it's usually we help them set up the project. If we can, we do fundraising for them. We get the buildings for them, the tools that they need, and we do some trainings, really basic kind of trainings on managing businesses and starting businesses. Yeah.
Wow, sounds very interesting.
Yes, it's very nice, and when you see the outcome, it's really satisfying as well. You see that you really participate in improving people's life. Yeah.
Yeah, I can feel it's close to your heart. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're usually the three big words: diversity, equity, inclusion. Could you explain a bit what is behind them?
I think these three concepts are usually mentioned together and put on the same buckets. But they do have different meanings, they do have different implications, and most importantly, they do have different, I think, implementation strategies. Now, if we talk about organizations, okay, I think diversity would be the most straightforward term to explain. So if we would have a diverse group of people or individuals if they would come from different backgrounds, they would have different experiences, they would have different perspectives, which means they would have different religions, ethnicity, genders, sexual orientations, abilities, and socioeconomic backgrounds as well. Embracing diversity means really appreciating or seeing the value in these differences, and making everyone see what they put on the table as a different opinion and see the value in that. So that's diversity. And on the other hand, equity is really about creating a system of justice and fairness, where these people that come from different backgrounds and ethnicities and countries and have different religions would have the same opportunities or resources even to succeed and to thrive.
So it's not about equality, to be equal, right? It's really to be fair.
To be fair, really providing personalized resources. And I think it also implies that, I think for equity we need to embrace the fact that there are a lot of historical and let's say, inequalities that we've carried so long with us, and we need to take meaningful actions in order to, I would not say 100% get rid of them, but kind of reduce this impact of inequalities. And yeah, I think equity is really about embracing that we all have different needs and challenges, and it's about providing each one of us the resources that we need so we can, let's say, have a fair play and we can all succeed. Which was the last one?
Inclusion.
Inclusion. Yes, so the inclusion, I think, can be really mixed with diversity very easily. And I think the main difference that we can keep in mind is that inclusion about taking action, so really about proactively creating that safe, inclusive, welcoming, supportive environment. It goes beyond just accepting that we have different backgrounds. It's really about proactively seeking to make these voices or these different backgrounds join, whatever it is, decision making or designing processes. It's really taking actions rather in compared to diversity.
So diversity is the basic attitude, yes. And inclusion is to really welcome the differences.
Yes,
mm-hmm.
Yes.
And you said we should value the differences, right?
Yeah.
So I understand if people are different and we value the differences, that the walls or the disconnection goes down and that we are one community. Yeah? What is the value for the companies? Because we are also in the work life. What would you say is the benefit to drive this diversity, equity, inclusion for a company?
I think when I say this, maybe people would not see the straightforward and say, yes, it will increase the productivity, the innovation, and I will explain this how. So this is the first thing that comes to my mind, and the productivity is really because you have created this safe environment where everyone feels valued. I think by default the level of commitment and the engagement of the employees increases, and there they put more effort into whatever they deliver. We can make it different. Give the example of one workplace where someone feels excluded from everything, and someone that is feeling valued, because this actually, I come from a different country and I have a different living background, but actually it brings value, and everyone knows that this brings value, and you can see the level of the productivity between these two individuals and how it changes.
So I think it's two things, yeah. The one thing I just realized is the psychological safety. If someone values other people, they will also value myself, and then I'm more open to speak up. And the other thing is, when I'm open to speak up, I bring in my own voice, my own perspective, and create synergy. You know?
Yeah, yeah. And I think I think I myself, I have the chance to work with the cross-functional team from different backgrounds, and I really see that you can see that when we have, and this is the second advantage, is when you do decision making or troubleshooting, nothing skips that team, because they all bring different opinions, and everyone sees a detail that no one else's might skip. So the obvious things that we all see, yes, they come, but at the end there are some few details that really make a difference, and these details, but they are brought up by these different individuals. It's really amazing. Like sometimes I just sit and listen to what they propose, but if we have something we work on, literally nothing skips if we go outside of that meeting or discussion.
And you mentioned the differences. So there are different nationalities, different ages, different sexes, different orientations, different religions. And from your experience at the workplace, which differences value most? Would you say that the nationality, as it's better to have people from different countries or different ages or religions, or? For
me, the different backgrounds. So like if someone would maybe their living experience, it includes also the country, the religion as well. I think if you've studied somewhere, but you've traveled and you have all of this luggage of all of these cultural experiences, you know how to communicate from with people from different backgrounds. I think the different countries that would be for me where I see the most value, and also in the nature of the people, so extroverts and introverts. Introverts, they might need a little bit help to express themselves, and if they really feel valued, it's really mind-blowing but what they can bring on. So
because often they are thinkers, right? And if they can contribute.
So
And would you also see a big difference between men and women at the workplace?
I think honestly, for where I work, not so much. I would say because we don't have this much difference in the ages, so the age gap is not that large, and so basically we are all millennials and we have some Gen Z, but it's I think it's still I didn't observe anything or any differences.
And one question that I was thinking of, so I was the team leader, and there were just men in my team. And then I said I want to have a woman to bring diversity in, because I think for me a woman and a man, I like the mixture because it gets a bit more relaxed atmosphere, different perspectives. And then I had to make a choice. Do I choose a woman or a man as the next person in my team? And of course, if the competences are the same, I would choose the women, to bring it in. But the women had less competences, so not much experience. It was really fresh from university, and a very senior guy. What would you recommend me? What counts more, competence or the gender?
I think it depends on how many people you included to do the interview. And the more diverse pool of the interviewers, I think the better also chance that you can have a view on, is it really something, the competence, is it something that they can develop? I personally am forever grateful because I was fresh from university and the person who chose me over other candidates. That provided me the chance to really grow. I mean, the learning curve for me was, okay. And it might be that if you take someone that has experience, they just want to stay whatever they are. And I think it really depends on what the other skills or the other feelings that you get from the person that you interviewed. But I would really, I would choose.
Okay, understood. Yeah. And have you ever been in an environment where this was not given at all? So where people were really judging other races or religions, and did it have any impact for you?
Yes, so it happened, unfortunately, and because I really traveled so much for my education, and I also for my PhD. So I was in the US, I was in Oslo, I was in Switzerland, in Bern, and it happens, and sometimes it's just like this, and you cannot just change everyone's minds on a click of a hand. I think what usually speak up, if it's really the communication is closed and you cannot change that person's mind, you do your work, and usually if you deliver on time quality work, this also opens the door, because this is what they value the most. But we should not let that affect us. I think it happens. It makes people stronger, and it made me be more aware about, yes, this happens. The world is not sunshine and rainbows, and it is how it is. Yeah.
And when you are now in a team and some person is making jokes about another race or gender or something, would you confront the person with it, or would you?
Yes. Yes, always.
It already happened, or?
I think unconsciously, because there are so many unconscious biases, but once you are aware of them and you share that this might be hurtful, I think it was, we were having this LGBTQ plus months in June in the department, and it was the opportunity to bring everyone in the group with flags and so on. And the language that was used was not very inclusive, but really not, it was not deliberately not inclusive, and it was hurtful to someone. And usually, if you say whether clarify, this might be hurtful for some people, but really we should make a step and not just say, this is not my problem, I should not say nothing about it. I think it's really all of our responsibilities to raise awareness about the topic.
And I sometimes ask myself, is it really still a big topic? Because, for example, for me it's completely normal to work with women and that they are bosses or something, but would you say nowadays it's still a big topic, or a hidden topic maybe, or?
Yes, I think it's still, it's not a hidden, but as we inherited so many practices that are really ingrained in our behavior, and we're not aware of them, but something might be hurtful to a woman when she hears it, but someone else would consider it normal. And if you really don't make, you don't focus on what was said, it might pass like it was normal, but in reality it might be really hurtful. I can give an example. When someone does a job description posting, the language should be really inclusive. That's a big thing that we should consider, that not everyone does, unfortunately. So this is one thing.
And just what do you mean with the language inclusive?
When for example, when you say she, he, and really, can we say conjugate the verbs? You really should be including whether
so always female,
putting
both
in brackets. So this is one example I can think of.
And as it's a big topic and many companies are facing it, what are your main, I would say, suggestions, proposals for companies to do it in a good way?
I think the training, definitely, this is where we would see really a direct impact, and we see direct results as well. Really just raising awareness about using inclusive language, about the fact that we have different backgrounds. Sometimes someone would say something to me, but I would understand it differently, just because in my country this would mean it's different. And if we just raise awareness about this would really be a game changer, especially for communication. I think job postings as well should be done in different platforms, different networks, where people from different backgrounds can access. And the third thing would be the KPIs, and I think we should be saying how many women, how many men are a company. I think this is nothing. We should forget about that, and we should be really dissect that into a little more details. And I think for me, this would be really helpful to drive forward the topic.
So just going again through the 3 points. One is training. You mean to give a formal training to the employees, or? So.
From for example, my area of, let's say, what I can affect in the department, we do, for example, the LGBTQ month, we do have a small presentation about what is inclusive language. We do reminders that this is what does it mean to have a safe place. It's not a training, but it's just a way of raising awareness. But a training would be really, maybe for even new starters, to tell them which languages can be inclusive, which languages not. To show the fact that people, to remind that we do have different backgrounds and different ways of understanding whatever we say, that the language can be, for example, a barrier, and if someone speaks one language or not, they should not be excluded for that. They should be provided the opportunity to learn. This kind of...
And with language, you mean really the different languages from different nations, or also the expressions that you use? So judging could be.
So you mean the wording, or?
Yeah, the wording, exactly.
Yeah, I think I personally wouldn't say you should use this word or this word, but just remind. For example, I have colleagues from the UK, and if I'm not aware that these colleagues interpret certain wordings in a certain way, I would say them.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe a reminder of all of the different countries that work for that organizations, and how the tendency of these individuals from these places, how do they usually communicate. I know we cannot make rules, but just a little bit of kind of
awareness, right?
Awareness, yeah.
And the job posting, it's also for you important to have she and he both written, yeah? Something else there?
To say for disabilities, people with disabilities are welcome as well. That's very important. Of course, you would need to be confident 100% that wherever you are working can support having people with disability being on site and can move around. I think that's very important to mention. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And the last point was then the KPIs to ensure that also women get higher position, for example,
women and different ethnicities. I would say that would be really good to break down how many per teams, how many ethnic groups we have, how many races, how many countries, how many backgrounds are in there. So yeah.
And I was in previous companies in steercos where they had these KPIs, yeah. And then there were one group of people that said, yeah, we have to drive and bring this KPI towards the target, and no matter at which cost, yeah. And then there were the other group saying, yeah, but it should come natural. If we have this position, we focus, on one diverse group that is missing, yeah. Would you say it should be proactively driven or in a natural way?
I think it depends maybe on the size and what the company does. And I think I personally think if there is a focus on a team they do really innovation, there should be really coming kind of an urgency, because having a diverse team, it has been shown in so many places, it has a good impact on bringing innovative and creative ideas. And yeah, for anything else, I would make that come naturally with just being aware, raising awareness, and usually it comes, I hope.
Well, I think that's a good point, that innovation is one key area also for companies, and for example also marketing, because different perspectives are taken into account. Yeah, that's a good point. The more creative people have to become, the better the synergy process. Yeah. And I always like the image of synergy. I read that it comes from the periodic elements, the system. So, for example, H2 and O2 becomes water, so it's 1 + 1 = 3, and it's actually the same principle, right, with diversity.
Yes.
And also something that you do in your private life to foster this topic?
Yeah, so and this, I think, my private life, for me, just raising awareness for my daughter, this is kind of the closest contact that I have, and I make sure that she gets all of she had dolls from all colors, and even trisomy, how do you say, trisomy?
What do you mean with it?
So this syndrome, how do you call it? What is it, the name in English? I forgot.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
So even like dolls with glasses, with weird.
Now I got you with it.
So she's aware of that, and I think also we in every day when we talking about options, choices, just always we share that with her. And hopefully she can also have this, if she wants to have this passion kind of to raise awareness about this for the next generation. I think so many things that needs to be done on the topic, and all we can do is raise awareness. I think doing this podcast is one opportunity. Also doing some work outside of work, I don't know, like with the United Nations or any organization. It's really small steps, but they do make a difference. If today I made someone aware that having different backgrounds or require different ways of communication, for me that's an achievement already. I think everyone can make small differences.
Yeah, I fully agree, and I really like the point of the psychological safety, because it's one contributor. And then also when I was younger, I preferred to have people around me that were similar to myself, and some others I stamped as idiots, but I completely changed my view because I really see the benefit. But for me, one key experience in my life was this disc model, where the 4 different personality styles are. So the dominant people, then influential, steady, and compliant. And to understand what are their needs, their fears, their motivation factors, and what they can bring as a benefit to the team, I found really great.
Really, So it's really also awareness. Kind of someone taught you about, or you taught it yourself, the model. So I think awareness is definitely key.
And would you say there's the main big mistake that people or companies can do regarding diversity? Is there something that they should avoid when they focus on this topic, or even don't?
I personally think that should be having work streams, yes, but I would avoid having one dedicated team, only that team working on diversity and inclusion, because then you'd get disconnected from the shop floor, from the what's actually happening. And I would like to see, I think, rather than just one team guiding this, to have, yes, of course we would need someone who would lead the effort, but I would like to see little soldiers everywhere, from each sub-team or department, that are actively participating in discussions, plans, and initiatives, and so on. Because we can go far if these little voices are heard. And maybe we tend to talk about gender equality, but also abilities or disabilities. That's also a big topic, and we can forget about it easily unless we have someone who represents that group of people. And I think when we include more people, we have higher chance of including having this diverse population that works on making diverse policies, diverse infrastructure, diverse everything.
Yeah, it's really broad, the field, and sometimes we forget certain minorities. Very interesting. And I think what I took out of the conversation is that in the daily life, to not forget certain stuff, to really create the awareness in the team, but also with the others, and making the appreciation for different perspectives. I think this is the key in different personalities, different nations, different races and genders and orientation.
Ages.
Very good. So
I talked too much.
Oh, it was great, I think it was really insightful. So thanks a lot, Echrak. And let's just summarize a bit for the audience about the diversity. So we had the 3 topics, and you correct me if I say something wrong now. So being diverse means appreciating the differences, being nation, gender, sexual orientation, religion, ability, disability, everything. Then we had the equity part, which means that we create fairness for everyone, so to create a fair environment. And the inclusion part, which goes beyond the diversity part, that we really welcome the different groups. Then you gave some tips for the companies, what to do, right? So I try to repeat. Yeah. So one thing was training.
Yes.
Yeah. To create the awareness. I think this is one of the
most. Yeah. I think training. That's a key. Training and raising awareness, especially for new starters. Job postings should be on different platforms. The language should be inclusive, and also to make the last point is to make KPIs and to track these KPIs, and not just to look how many women, how many men we have in a team or in a company, because to my opinion that does not say anything about diversity, how diverse and how inclusive we are.
And what I also remember, the more creative and more innovative the team should be, the more important diversity becomes. So the innovation department, the marketing department, yeah, but also maybe engineering, when they want to create new solutions, it's also pretty important.
The more urgent, I would say, the more focus you have on innovation, the more urgent I think to have diversity.
Yeah, so what we all can do is to increase the awareness, and also to address if some people are blaming other groups, and then to interact and to
speak up. Yeah, really to speak up for it's not black and white, but to speak up if we observe something that we think is not correct, or in the communication or a language that is not inclusive, or even a behavior, an action that was taken by someone. We should all speak up, and yes, that really makes a difference. Even though we think, if I speak up, what will that create? But trust me, that makes a big difference. Yeah.
And to create this psychological safety, yes. I think this is really key.
Yes.
Great. So thanks again for your time at the podcast, and also thank you for your attention, and see you next time. Bye.